Hi, and welcome to this episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty, and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the lands and airwaves of Naarm, where this conversation takes place. Land which was never ceded. Land where communities came together to eat seasonally, locally, and without exhausting resources. I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and rising. Today I'm talking to Matthew Butcher from the ETO Collective. That's the group behind Ronnie's, Dive Bar, Shutters, Estate, to name a few. Matthew is a larger-than-life character who loves hugs as greetings and immediately made me feel at home, and as though I was talking to an old friend when I went in to talk to him at Ronnie's. Matthew talked a lot about how lucky he's been in following his dad's advice to surround himself with good people, having worked for Shannon, Bennett and Clift at Vue de Monde, and Josh Emett and Gordon Ramsay in New York and at Mays in Melbourne. He's also done the hard yards, and that, combined with a genuine love for hospitality and for people, is reflected in the ETO Collective group of venues. Now, I did actually try to count up the various restaurants and bars that are part of this group, and then Matthew mentioned a couple of others that are opening soon, so let's just say that he has an impressive portfolio of places where delicious food and a fun vibe are the priority. This was such a treat of a conversation, and it's such a pleasure to share it with you.
Joe.
Hello, how are you?
Nice to see you again. No, hug. Sorry, I'm a bit of a hugger.
You got caught up in the jacket.
How are you?
Good, thank
Apologies
you.
for my
No.
tardiness.
No, not even really that tardy. It's, and there's so much going on, so thank you for your time as well.
You're very welcome.
So it's very lo-fi on Conversation with a Chef, so I just record our conversation, I like minimalist interventions. So,
no worries.
So yeah.
Cool. I'm ready. Are we recording?
We are.
Brilliant.
It's all go.
Brilliant.
I hope so, yeah. I once did have a chat in the early days, and we had this whole wonderful chat, and it wasn't recording, so that was disappointing, but yeah. Now, so tell me, sort of interested because you're between Sydney and Melbourne. You grew up in Echuca, and I know that New York has a really special place in your heart. Where do you think you call home?
Well, Melbourne's my home.
Yeah.
Funny that. I love America. Yeah. So my parents, obviously very family driven and very, very tight family, hence why I'm still in Melbourne. But where I feel most comfortable is the US. Yeah. So when I get there, I feel at ease. I feel very much at home. I feel grounded. So I actually really enjoy my travels there. I'm very fortunate enough that I get the chance to travel there for work quite often, which I really embrace. And last year I got to experience it for about 8 months, which was unbelievable in New York. But yeah, so it's funny. So between Melbourne and America, I feel at ease. So I'm very lucky that I get to call two places home. Yeah,
that is lucky. And I saw on one of your Instagram posts, someone had commented that it was like a childhood dream for you doing what you were doing in the States. What is it about? Where did that come from? That love of...
Well, funny that, I grew up with two older sisters.
Yeah.
So I watched a lot of TV, a lot of drama shows, shows like Beverly Hills, Melrose Place, back in the day.
Yes.
And yeah, so I just think a lot of that food scene in them shows, like diners, etc., burgers, pizza.
Yeah.
I just fell in love with it, right? And then I guess growing up with my parents in a takeaway food shop, my dad was famous for making pizzas, my mum's work ethic, and having great burgers on the menu. Like that's how I learned my love of food.
Yeah.
And I guess that's like where the staples are of the US. So I think that's where I feel the love for it, and I guess why I love being there. You know, it's funny, I chat to a friend who lives in the US, who's an actor, and he hates the food there.
Yeah.
But he knows how much I love it, and we debate about it all the time, whether it's a hot dog or a burger or a pizza. Like last year, I spent most of the year going around testing pizzas.
Thank you.
So
amazing.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy. Thanks. Wow. What is that?
So this is our famous fermented potato focaccia.
Oh yes.
Made in house.
Yes.
With cod roe and then some Romanesco sauce. Romanesco dip.
feel like maybe when I've been here before, everyone's ripped into it so quickly. I haven't seen it in its pristine and complete form.
It looks pretty.
It's beautiful.
It's just some fresh thyme on top.
Gorgeous. So, but I find that interesting that you're really drawn to that sort of burger, pizza, diner kind of thing, because your big, according to what I've read, your big epiphany about food and wanting to be a chef was when you're 18 in Carlton eating that confit duck. That's not a burger.
Very, very much not a burger.
So what was that? What was that moment where, can you just describe what was happening for you when you just thought, actually this is what I want to do now?
Yeah, I think we all evolve right in time. So growing up with the burgers and the pizza, etc., I think that's one part of being a chef and that side of food. The time I went and ate at Monde, it was in Carlton. I was actually at university and I had a twice cooked duck leg with pomme mousseline and red wine sauce. I still remember, it was one of the best things I've ever eaten. I think I fell more in love with who was doing that.
Yeah.
So like, I looked at Shannon back then, his long hair. I was like, I want to be like that. Yeah. So I think, what I ate was amazing, and the person that was creating it and cooking it was even better. And my dad was very big on, you surround yourself with the best. If you want to, be around the best and you want to do well in life. So I guess that's how it all started for me from there. And, essentially I went from burger pizza to French cooking. Yeah. So, that's sort of how it all started for me.
And is it true that you were in Vue de Monde and you sent a note to Shannon to ask to work for him?
Correct, yeah.
It's so
after I actually went to Vue de Monde in Carlton, I went back to where my parents reside in Echuca and worked at a pub up there.
Okay.
I did my first 2 years of the apprenticeship there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So where I did a lot of developing, I learned under a couple of great chefs there, learned about being around people. I was big into sports, so I was always around a team, if that makes sense. But yeah, 2 years in, Shannon brought out his first book, My View, it was called. And I started cooking all the recipes out of it in this pub and sort of learning and trying to get better every day. And then my parents didn't understand why I never was at home. So, I was working mad hours. And then I said, I'll take you, Mum. I'll show you where I want to be and what I want to do. So we drove down to Melbourne, got a reservation at Vue de Monde, went in there. And before I got there, I wrote a letter to Shannon just to say how much he inspired me. One day that I would work for him and, and everything I wanted to learn from him and where I want to go in life. And I gave it to the maitre d' at the time, which was Brian Lloyd. And he took the letter and I thought, you know what, who knows what's going to happen here. And I was sitting down with my mum and 30 minutes later, Shannon stumbled out, shook my hand, started chatting. He goes, mate, come back next week, we'll sit down, have a conversation. And that led into meeting Ryan Clift at the time, which was the chef de cuisine. So when I came back down to Melbourne from Echuca, I sat in a 30-minute interview with them just before lunch service, and you could tell there's 20 chefs in there, they were flying around, and it was just it was a vibe, and I want to do that. And then that went really well, and then Ryan said come back next week, so I went back to Echuca, come back the following week. And, he said, come to work 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, okay, great. Rolled in at 7:30 after a big night out in Carlton with some friends from university. Big mistake that was. And I walked in at 7:30 and there was about 20 chefs in there running. I was like, wow, what is this? Yeah. Sat down with Shannon about 1 o'clock at night later on that day, or later on the next day. And, he said, welcome to the team.
Wow.
So that's where it all changed.
That's amazing because it's, that fast pace, that whole vibe. I guess when you're starting off though, it sounds like you were always creative because you were cooking cooking recipes from books and so on, so pushing yourself. But when you're starting off as an apprentice and lower in the ranks and doing all that kind of stuff, do you still feel part of a team? Do you think?
Do you still feel part of it?
Yeah, when you're not the one doing the creating and you're way down here, but I guess it depends on the kitchen.
It depends on the culture, for
sure.
I think back then, though, we were in a different world to what we're living in right now.
Yeah.
For me, I think I was just very proud to be where I was.
Yeah.
And I think like when I looked at the team, obviously there's very different individual personalities. Everyone had their own agenda, but when you're surrounded in an environment like that, everyone's got the same goal. It's to be great and to get better every day. And back then, Shannon got his third hat, and the place was probably one of the best in the country. And we're all striving to get better. And when you're surrounded with a team like that, you can only get better. You can only surround yourself with greatness. So I really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, it was probably some of the hardest times of my life.
Yeah, I wonder that.
But it's a good environment to be in to learn. Now, if it was like that now in this day and age, you wouldn't see it very often. Very, 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 very different now. The cultures, the teams, the way they interact. It's a different philosophy for the kids coming through now, and how they learn and how they're taught, and the team environment's very different. So,
what do you mean?
Well, I guess, back then it was you work a lot. You work hard and you work a lot, and you wouldn't question it. You would enjoy it and you go after it. Whereas these days, I think it's and I think it's for the better. It's just we the work-life balance is much more structured, and it really helps the generations that are coming through with their mental health, and also just how you can take working, whether it's 8, 12, 16, 18 hours in a day, back into 8 hours a day, and being more structured, and what you can take on.
That's right.
So back then it used to be the mentality of like work, learn.
Yes.
As much as you could. Whereas now it's very much the same, but you're trying to compact it down into a more structured timeline.
So this is a question that's only just come to me right now, so I'm not sure if I can formulate it properly. But I was just thinking when you were saying that we, the media, do a lot of saying Vue de Monde alumni or Attica alumni. Is it when new people are coming through now in some of these big kitchens, are they able to enjoy the moment of being in that kitchen and learning and being part of a team in that moment? Or do you reckon people are always thinking about getting out on their own and being an alumni? Does that make sense, the question?
It does. I think so. I think back in the day you probably weren't looking like, you weren't thinking that.
No.
Whereas now you probably are.
Right.
I think the amount of time you spend now with chefs is probably a lot less on average than what it used to be.
Yeah.
I think these days a lot of chefs coming through speed up the timeline of how long they spend with one. And I can see the positives around that. I think my mentality back in the day it wasn't a timeline, it was like how long you could spend, like how much I needed to learn from that person. And then I never thought about alumni.
No.
Never once did I think that. Like, I thought I was blessed to be in a position I was in more than what's going to happen next. But we're in a small world, right? Like, our industry is quite small when you think about it. Everyone knows everyone supports everyone. So I went to Vue de Monde actually just recently, and Hugh's doing an awesome job over there. And I looked at all the chefs in there, and to look at it now, you can see the joy in the chefs' faces of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like when back in the day when I was there, it was more like, geez, it was hard. Like, it's stressful, and you're at it, and you want to do good, and et cetera, but you can sort of tell the culture shift. And I reckon them chefs in there now have been thinking, wow, like, I'm a part of that Vue de Monde alumni now. Like, Vue de Monde itself, it's a brand. Like, Shannon's created something unbelievable. So, and I think that anyone that walks through the doors there now get to be a part of the ones that have experienced it in the past.
Yeah. And how long did you stay?
At Vue de Monde?
Yeah.
3.5 years at Vue.
Wow, that's quite long. Well, maybe in today's standards.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Fun times, hard times. It's probably the hardest stretch of my career. Just with I guess what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
To be perfect every day is a challenge, right? But Shannon and Ryan, they really set the tone of what we were going after and who we wanted to be every day.
Yeah.
So it was hard, lots of hard work, and I was lucky enough to be surrounded and supported by a great family. My sister used to iron my jackets for me. So a lot of moral support from my parents.
Yeah.
But that was the hardest, but some of the best time of my life, for sure.
So was it that you came to a certain point then and thought, okay, I need the next challenge?
Yeah, I guess. I think we all hit that in different parts of our life. I felt that, maybe a little run down in one spot. I was also very much attached to Ryan, who was the chef de cuisine at the time. He went to open a restaurant in Singapore called Tiplin Club. So I felt like there was a great opportunity there to travel as well, which was something I was really big on and a part of my goals as I was growing, to get that experience. So I sort of jumped at that chance, and when going with Ryan, I guess it still felt like it was Monde, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He was a very big part of that. So I jumped at that chance. I don't do well with leaving and change very much.
Yeah.
When you think about it, I've only ever worked for like 3 or 4 chefs in my life.
Yeah.
So, I'm getting on an age now, as you would know. So, but no, I think it was a good challenge for me, but a good change of pace and seeing the world as well. Being in Singapore, completely different to Melbourne.
And what was the dining public in Singapore like at that time? Was it a big change from here?
Well, it was a completely different restaurant, wasn't it? We had 30 seats.
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
Tiplin Club was 30 seats.
Yeah.
Around the bar, and then through to Monde being 80 seats, lunch and dinner, pretty intense. But yeah, it was when Ryan was first starting out, so it was a good change of pace.
Yeah.
And just one, it was quite, just one menu. We weren't focused on lunch and dinner, etc., etc. And it was very much driven from cocktails and food. So it was lots of fun, very, very different as well. So, Shannon's approach is very French, modern French, and Ryan is very contemporary. He was very big on the molecular side of the cuisine side of the world. So I got to learn a different part of the food world, I guess, and that's something that I was really big on. So how I could have a different approach to different cuisines, and techniques.
Yeah, right. And obviously it's you probably get asked this too often, but just the whole Gordon Ramsay thing, I was really delighted to read that you think really highly of him and you learnt so much from him in different areas. It's not perhaps a story or a perspective that we might often hear, so it's really great to I loved hearing that. So tell me, from Singapore, did you decide to go to New York, or did you...
So Singapore, I went to New York and met Josh Emett, Gordon Ramsay at the London Hotel, which then I learned that they were open in Melbourne. So spent some time with the guys in New York there.
Yeah.
And then the team from New York, actually, I think it was about eight staff from there came out, set up May's Grill. And that's when I got real deep into the Gordon life. He didn't visit as much in Melbourne as he did in New York. But I think when you bring the people from his group and his culture, you get a piece of him anyway.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking about some of the best talent in the world, right? So, again, feeling very blessed in the position I was at. I got to really, be at May's from the start and pre-opening, and again, being a chef, but also looking at it from the other lens of being an operator.
Yeah.
Seeing how to set up a restaurant pre-opening, what you have to go through from a food costing perspective to food tastings to staff training to finding the right team, right structure, bringing it all together before you open the doors. We put a lot of effort and time into that before we even open up for a single diner.
Yeah.
And that was eye-opening for me, right?
Yeah.
Bringing, essentially we had, between the two restaurants, there was about 35 chefs, and we weren't even open yet, and we're in there cooking food every day, trying to be great, trying to make it perfect. trying to live up to the Gordon Ramsay standard, because anything he puts his name to needs to be within his, standards, I guess, right? So it was lots of fun, and it was very challenging.
And so what kind of food was that?
Well, very much Josh Emett, being from New Zealand, brought a bit of that American side of things to English, so very English style Gordon Ramsay food.
Yeah.
So smaller portions. I reckon the methodology around the dishes there was, for maize, essentially, was everything had to be cooked or done within 8 minutes, so a lot of preparation.
Wow.
So more avant-garde type of dishes. Probably a little bit too English-driven for Melbourne. As you would know, we're very fortunate with what we have here. So it's a challenging market to sit in, especially for the talent that come in from overseas. But yeah, I think we developed over that sort of 2-year span of where the food was going. We probably started with a lot of products from overseas, and then we become a bit more local produce driven. But the maize philosophy was, anything that can be cooked within 8 minutes. That again, we had I think 1 or 2 hats there, so it was a lot of work, and it was lots of fun though. I remember at one stage when I first started on the meat section at Maize, and there was me and another chef from Sydney, and we'd look around and we'd be the only 2 there. Every section had 4 or 5 chefs, and it was just me and him working away, we had 6 dishes on the menu, and you're looking at 8 to 10 components on each dish.
Wow.
It was a push, that's for sure. But one thing I did learn about when we brought Gordon's out here is when the movement of chefs working 8 hours, et cetera, it was like, okay, we had to compact our jobs into 8-hour shifts, right? Which was challenging enough, considering we come from you work and whatever, doing whatever it takes, whether it's 10, 12, 14, 16 hour days, it all changed. That's when the movement changed. So
yeah, it's sort of interesting thinking about New York versus Melbourne. I was speaking to Jay Bang last week from Freya, and he was saying that he just loved being in New York for the fact that people in New York are really willing to spend lots of money, and they want quality, and I think people in Melbourne also want quality, but there's probably less of the being able to spend big money. I mean, certainly venues that run to that here, but do you think is that what you felt as well, that there was a different approach to eating out in New York, or is it kind of similar but on a smaller scale in Melbourne?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, New York's one of the richest cities in the world.
Yeah.
So but the big thing about New York and what they've done really well for so long is their service, and their service make you spend. So essentially you got staff that are, the servers essentially earning their money through tips.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to be the best service in the world, right? They're going to upsell, they're going to push you for more, etc., etc. So whereas here in Australia, I'm not saying our service is not great. It's just it's completely different. Yes. So I mean, you go to certain groups like the McConnell Group, etc., you'll find impeccable service, unbelievable. And when I go to Gimlet, I feel like I'm in New York.
Yes.
But then also when I see the bill, I feel like I'm in New York.
That's right.
But when I think about it, and even think of the likes of Gimlet, I mean, essentially their food and what they do is great, but it's simple. They're produce driven. They're not trying to be what's on trend or any of that kind of stuff. It's just they do it really well. Yeah. And that's what New York's always done really well. So, I feel like the spend per head is a little bit different. But again, New York, you're talking about, the where you're sitting is cost a fortune to sit in that restaurant, right? They're paying their leases or the buildings. Even you look at hotels over there, like you're not finding a hotel less than $500 a night. Like it's the real estate city of the world. So
yeah. You've said a couple of times, referring to your experiences of working with really amazing people, that you were really lucky to do that, and I guess we're lucky. But I feel like, these things don't just happen by accident. You obviously had what it takes to be in those places and to be around those people. What do you think it is that you need as a chef to be able to tap into that luckiness of being around those good people? Because you can't just walk in there and be lucky. You have to be offering something. So what do you think that was for you?
I mean, working hard.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big key. You gotta work hard. And I think these days you can definitely have a voice of what you need and what you want to do. But I guess I was very much driven to the people piece, and having a voice to say that that's what I needed and that's what I wanted. I mean, you don't see it probably as much these days. You more look at jobs here and there and whatever else. Whereas, like, I targeted what I wanted and what I needed, and I found a way to surround myself with that. I guess that's sort of who I am, right? Like, I'm very independent. I'm very values driven. I surround myself with people that I think that can help benefit me. At the start, it was Shannon, Bennett, and, going into that having lunch at Monde in Carlton, I spent the next 2 years developing myself in a position where, okay, I can do it now.
Yeah.
Then to the point where spending time with Ryan, who I still think is one of the best chefs in the world, I felt like I could do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like he believed I could be there. So it was a two-way street. And then with Gordon, being in Melbourne and then back in America, I saw a way of learning something different that wasn't just food. He built an empire.
Yes.
And again, it's not too far off my philosophy of surrounding yourself with great people. He surrounded himself with great minds that help build who he is. So I guess it's understanding the metrics of what you need as where you want to go, and having goals, and then going after it. Chase them and do whatever it takes to get there. Sometimes opportunities arise, and the right ones. If they're the right ones, it's because that's what you're after. If you don't know what you're after, you can't chase what you need. So I guess that's sort of how I looked at it. And I mean, with that, always takes a little bit of luck as well, right? The right time, right place, putting yourself in the right position. I didn't just go into Shannon Bennett's Monde and go, I'm ready to go. I went and did the work, and I cooked his whole book before I even started there. So you put in the work, and you want to evolve and you want to get better every day. That's important.
And it feels a little similar vein, the intentional way that you've set up your group, and you've got quite a few. You've got an empire. Would you say it's an empire? You've got a lot of venues, and I'm just watching. I mean, we thought we got through, lockdowns and all of those things, but I guess the cost of living is pinching, because I've been saddened and surprised to see a number of places I wouldn't have expected saying that they weren't going to open their doors in 2024. Like, they shut at Christmas, said see you in 2024, but they've not been able to reopen, and that's come up a few times already over January. But you've got several places, so clearly there's more involved than just luck in having places in Coogee and here, and so what was it always your plan to have several different things on the go, or has that just happened, or what? How does that go?
I think my goal's always been to go after a group. I think having one, knowing who I am and what I've done, I get bored really easily. But saying that, it all changes. You evolve. I'm sitting here today thinking, God, it'd be great just to have one. The more people you get, more challenges you have, from a structure perspective, but also how you operate. It is challenging out there for small businesses, essentially. I mean, we're fortunate enough. A lot of our venues are in hotels. And when you look at hotels, there's, we're sitting in a hotel that has 250 rooms above us. So that's people that could come in and eat lunch and dinner. It's right there in the vicinity of 20 steps. So I look at it from a different lens to what a lot of small businesses do. It is very different, but I like the fact that there's different ways to express how I look at food.
So you've got the taqueria.
There's all
bars.
dive bar. All different venues.
Yeah.
We're just about to open Oddies as well next week across the Crown Plaza in Melbourne, which is like a little bistro.
Amazing.
So there's different ways to express my love of food out to the community, and that's something that keeps me sane. It's been a challenging 3-4 years, hasn't it? And I feel like it's getting harder.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to adapt. Instead of looking at what we can't do, we look at what we can do.
Yeah.
We're in this phase of menu engineering around, our food to be simpler, less ingredients on a plate, more produce driven, more efficient techniques, how to support the labour side of things. And that's something that, without being around Gordon or the guys that have been around, I wouldn't have been able to adapt and course correct and help our businesses succeed and move in a direction where it can keep the doors open, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's how we look at it. So, but I have a lot of friends out there that might not open the doors again, but then I have some friends out there chasing it and still going after it, and opening new restaurants. And I'm not saying it's luck. I think it's a lot of hard work, and you've got to have a really good strategy. You have a really good approach, and also the biggest thing and what we invest in is the people. You've got to find the people, invest in the people, support the people, and bring the best out in them. And that's something that, when you have a group, that's where my focus really aligns with is finding the right people and supporting them, setting them up for success is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Oddies will be a bistro. Will that be
everyday occasion bistro?
Oh, nice. So modern Australian or French?
Australian.
Yes.
With French techniques.
Nice.
Yes. But I think the days of calling what it is changed a little bit.
Okay,
it's
that's
more
good,
just my motto around it is an everyday occasion bistro.
Yeah.
I think it's more about what the community and what the guests want now. We're going through our phase at the moment where the simpler is better. So things like steak frites and roast chicken frites with tarragon gravy, nice pate on the menu, oysters,
So good.
all them type of beautiful things like surf and turf even is on the menu, right? So it's very much a strategy around the guests that are in that hotel, from corporates to the leisure market. So we more focused in on research on who's our clientele there, and understanding what the clientele want, and that's what we've developed in Oddies. So, and that's how my approach to when we're creating venues now. I'm working one at the moment over at Kingsford in Adelaide, in the Barossa.
Oh.
Used to be McLeod's Daughters, where they filmed McLeod's Daughters, the TV show.
Wow.
Just working through the strategy on what we look at there, from a concept to what the guests want and what the clientele is. A lot of market research done, and that's where we emphasise and spend a lot of time on before we create and make a venue, which is a little bit different to, what small businesses might look at, all the new players in the game of setting up restaurants or cafes. We have a different approach, so a lot of research involved.
And are you still on the pans? Sometimes?
My heart will always be on the pans.
Yeah.
I think now these days it's more around events. Like next week I get to cook at the NBL, at Melbourne United Basketball in the Chairman's Lounge. Events like that, I still love to get in on the pans and cooking, and it's a way of showcasing me and my personality and who I am, but still really heavily involved in menu creation. Spending time with the chefs is one of my biggest things. I've always said from day one. I had the chance to be around Gordon and Shannon, and I've always said that spend time with the chefs and involve them and get them in the position to be, from a financial perspective, a six-figure chef, but also in a position that they can have the ability not just to create menus, but cost menus and operate restaurants, and which is key. So that's where I spend my time focusing on. Sometimes I love just getting in the kitchen and, once, every so often, cooking on the pans or being with the head chef. And these days they don't like me around too much. They try and kick me out. I think it's a bit more of a respect thing, and they're like, I can do that. But my heart will always be there, and I'm lucky enough to still cook for a lot of people outside the restaurants. So that's where I spend some time. But these days, very much the emphasis is on working on the business, rather than in it.
And so with all that in mind and your own experience, as well as working with so many great people, what would your advice be to a young person who was thinking about becoming a chef or starting off on that chef's journey?
Set yourself a goals list. What do you want to learn? Who you want to be around? And dial in on that. Focus on what it is that what cuisine. My philosophy has always been: is it French? Is it Australian? Is it Japanese? Go spend time and spend it wisely, and surround yourself with great people, passionate people, and with an end goal of what you want to get out of it is an important piece. I think that's something that I always tell my guys is, I don't expect to hold anyone forever. I expect them to have the goals of what they want to learn and how long it's going to take, and understand that and commit to that. Have a bit of have loyalty to that, and be transparent. And if you do that, a bit of old school thinking is, I'll help you go to the next spot. Because it's a small community. Like everyone knows everyone. Everyone's looking for staff. You do your time, learn what you need to learn, and then you get the help for what's next. And that's something I'm real big on. So I never say I want to keep, even though I have a bunch of chefs that have been with me for, my group chef's been with me 10 years. But I'm always pushing to put more experience into them, whether it's Stargent or other restaurants, whether it's their time's done here. I think you need to shift your focus here, because if their end goal is to have their own restaurant, they need to be out and out there with others to understand different sides of the business or the cooking side of things for what their end goal is. So have goals, set them, and be loyal to them, and go and stay true to your values and who you are, and get in there and work hard. That's the best advice that I ever got. So my dad always said, surround yourself with the best if you want to be in the company of the best. So that's something that I always try and train and tell the guys that are coming up.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Done.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Matthew Butcher at Ronnie's. If you liked what you heard, you can check out all the goodness on Instagram at Matthew_Butcher, but also at Ronnie's Melbourne. That's RONNIES Melbourne. If you'd like to hear more stories from other chefs, I'm on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef, and that's how you can tell when I put a new story up. You can also read the chat and become a subscriber at www.conversationwithachef.com. I would love it if you told a friend about my chats, and of course you can follow me on Apple and Spotify and give me a review, which brings it to other people's attention. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day and bon appétit.